Okay. Thank you, Sonia, for the introduction. The topic of today's event is adaptivity. And we have already had 3 amazing talks about adaptivity's different aspects. And now I'd like to talk about the transformation of the product design's role within the value creation process, within the process of development of digital products. Okay, I want to suggest that we start this discussion by talking about the changing role and scope of responsibilities for product designers and the expectations of their direct involvement into product development process. Sometimes it goes beyond their main function, and I want to ask a question. Where do you see it's important for designers to step outside of the boundaries of their direct responsibilities and cross over to other functions? And maybe there will be even a more important question. When it can backfire and when it can be counterproductive. Alexander, you have such an amazing experience as a product designer, as a design manager. Would you mind if we'll start with you?
Recently, cross-functional teams became like a norm. Like, they're just like more productive, they're better. So within cross-functional team, like stepping outside of the boundaries is becoming like a norm. So it's pretty good. Like, I only see it positively, like if designer gets more contacts to other functions of the business, like I basically welcome it. I think it's a cool way to work when designer is like, actually like we see even teams like content, for example, right? Research, they're actually all part of one function. So it's quite interesting to see when actually you bring people from other functions in. So for example, you get in engineering into design and so on, or designers into engineering. Okay, can you hear? So honestly, I think it's beneficial. That's how I work. And whenever I'm working in a team, I actually try to bring people together, but not to just bring them closer to collaborate. For me, like in cross-functional team, you don't have to make a design decision. It's all about actually just bringing your team on board and trying to come up with a decision. And you as a designer, you're just becoming more type of a facilitator, and you can just help them by like, visualizing it or like prototyping and so on and so on. So I think designers should step outside of their boundaries. And I encourage like companies to kind of transition towards that setup. So it's more cross-functional. Designers are involved in business. They understand the business, like, and it's beneficial. Now about backfiring. So yes, there could be like also, it's all about priorities. Some people might get carried away with stuff that's not important at the moment. So I think as a team, like, you just have to keep on asking that question all the time. Why are we doing this? Why is it important? Like, the regular questions. Like, why is it important for a designer to be so heavily involved, for example, in business? What are we getting out of this? So I think if you try to justify it, so let's say you're a designer who wants to be involved in business side, try to justify it to your partners in business, explain to them the value, because basically if you're able to explain it clearly, it makes sense. And yeah, if you can't explain that value, then like, it won't happen. Like, so it's just like, yeah, kind of makes sense, but yeah.
Thank you, Alexander. Absolutely makes sense. And you touched another aspect of this question. So if you're talking about the collaboration, for example, these UX researchers, and I think it may be an interesting question for Ola here. It's just an opposite situation when researchers could collaborate with designers, and like I can ask maybe the same question for UX researchers. What about collaboration between researchers and product designers, and how far can you go outside of your direct responsibility zones and maybe intervene in some ways to the design process? Does it happen?
I think that it all depends on the particular team, particular company, the culture of the company, the previous experience of this company, how long it exists, and how fast it should go. Because you know, when you're doing a startup, it might be one of you doing everything, and you're just nobody have around you who could do it. And if you have a lot of good specialists around you, why won't you use their help? So it always depends on the skills of the designer. For example, if we know that this guy is really cool and he can do the research by himself and he is interested, he has time for it, well, it's great. Let him do it. But sometimes we have, for example, junior designers who are not very experienced in design, even in the prototyping, in the user experience design at all. So a researcher may help make some recommendations how you can do it, which pattern which I saw. So yeah, it may be different. Yeah, and I don't think something is bad or good, but of course, for your personal development, you should try to do more. For example, do the management part, make some, I don't know, new. Think about new projects which you can do, and yeah, be like leading.
Okay, so and maybe could you provide me some kind of example? So is it possible, like, let's imagine that you're as a researcher, you're leading some kind of discovery project and you're participating in this project during further phases of the development, right? So maybe some like practical examples.
I didn't mention it before, but researchers in Yandex Market, right, can do, of course, a lot of types of research, but they don't do, for example, testing of prototypes because the designers do it. But also, researchers facilitate group activities. So because it's really, it's going great because we do a research on some topic and we need the team to understand the findings, to come up with some new ideas. And this is how we also continue being in a team after the research. And then we know already what the ideas were, what the solutions are, and we also help them to test. So we're on the whole way of it. And we can also take a leading part or managing part if we see that product manager is somewhere else, designer is don't know what to do. And you know, I see that members of my team are going like, you know, like guides through this process, because we see it all from the perspective of user, and I think it's helpful.
Great, Oля, thank you for your thoughts. And I want to elaborate further on this topic. And I have a specific question for Lida. I want to explicitly ask about the business side. What's your opinion whether a designer should be deeply involved into formulating an ideal customer profile, defining the product strategy, where you can draw the line between product manager and product designer? You have an experience as a product designer, as a product manager, and now you're a founder of your own startup. So what's your take?
I think it depends on the level of the company, because if you work in a startup, you always in a content marketing manager, you're product designer, you're product manager, and there is no line. And this is how the startup works. They have less people, but they do more. Maybe with no such a great experience, but I think this the better way to start doing it. So I don't think that product designer have to do like the product strategy or define business metrics, because it's a work for like CEO or like head of product, product managers. But designer should participate in that, because sometimes product managers just think it's not their job and they don't interested in that. And when I realized that I want to be a product manager, my first steps were just, can I just sit here and listen quietly? Why are you talking about, and why these decisions are made? Then I asked about some small task with analyzing some research and data. Could I just work with this data manager, with the data analysts, and with all these small steps? But for me, it was a goal. I wanted to be a product manager, and if you, as a product designer, see your growth path as not like the design manager, design lead, or some art direction, I think the one way is to go to the product management. And in that case, you should at first participate and understand why some decisions are made in your company. And then when you collected all this data, you can suggest some improvements, some some metrics that we want to track or that we want to keep in mind. Yeah.
Great. And actually, I want to touch one more aspect of expanding boundaries of your current role. So it's about coding. It's kind of an old question, and a lot of people had been asking this question for the last couple of years. But I still want to talk about it. And I mean, what about coding? So when it comes to collaboration with engineers, to what extent should designer understand the technology? So basically, should designer code or not? Alexander?
Yeah, I think everyone in the world should code. Everyone, like designers, non-designers, like it's basically, yeah, 100%. I think designers that just keep designers away from creating production code. They shouldn't, but designers should hack. They should basically write messy, dirty code that just works. So actually, I think it's also quite similar to business and understanding technical constraints of the media, right? How it all works. Just it's interesting, but also it makes you a better designer. Same way, understanding how business works makes you a better designer. It might not make you a businessman, but it will definitely make you a better designer. Understanding how research works and so on and so on. So especially like, don't force yourself if you don't enjoy it, but it's a good knowledge. If you don't, like I know some people are just kind of more creative and like they find like very logical stuff boring. So don't force yourself, but like give it a try. That's my personal view. And actually, I love designers who code, and in startup you have more flexibility. So for example, I have like very small design team, but they all code. So and effectively they pretty much create the front end, but they don't ship production code. They would prototype everything with interactions, and then we pass that off to engineers. And so far, everyone's happy.
It's kind of pretty interesting setup. So you mentioned that all of your designers code, or
Yeah, but it's just like 3 of them. So
okay.
it's a small team. It's a
still.
startup. Yeah.
You can say that all of your designers code. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So how do you leverage it? So you're just creating some kind of prototypes to do early validation, or maybe you're using these skills of your designers to polish layouts before they go to production. For example, so during the design review stage, designers see that, okay, we need to tweak some pixels, like wrong styles here or there, and they could just jump into code and to do some tweaks, or just more about prototyping.
So I would say it's, so like we specifically don't want them to touch production, but actually what they do, they pretty much define a design system. So when designer, they would code a prototype of a component, for example, right? Or they would code a prototype of a screen, like with all detailed interactions, but they wouldn't touch anything in production. So that's how we decided. We set some boundaries. just to have clarity behind like engineer and designer. But that's what they do. They would pretty much define everything that represents a component, like all properties and so on. So that's also an advantage because basically our Figma files are pretty much identical to like code, and then they pass that on to engineering and they implement the component. But they wouldn't do like fixes, although they could, but yeah.
Sounds great. And basically, I'd like to say that I have some kind of strong opinion on this. So basically, recently we defined our design levels, and we have some kind of skill for product designer inside of our skill matrix, and it's about understanding of the technical technical side of the project, and on some higher levels. It's required to understand the core concepts of React or of iOS or Android built-in frameworks, and to understand basic aspects of server-client interactions. So just as for me, it's very important to maybe it's not necessary to dive deeply into code or to write a production code, but to understand the core concepts of how modern products are built is crucial, and it's very important. And also, I'd like to mention that in Manychat, half of our designers are front-end contributors, and actually they're writing production code sometimes. Sometimes it backfires. So I remember myself fixing maybe a year ago. So I don't like to mention a name of the person who caused this bug, but in the middle of the night, so we found that our production is broken, and this was because we changed some styles and there was some kind of silly mistake in the code. But yeah, sometimes it happens. But on the other side, I'd like to say that I find it very important, very useful when you're just not trying to understand the concept, but you're trying to do something with your own hands. Yeah, so.
Just one thing that I would add, although this specific setup works because we're a startup and we were able to pretty much handpick people for the team, right? People for the team. However, when you scale up, it's super hard to be like this. That's why I think to diversify, especially like that was similar to Farfetch, although we had like my team was always more technical, but it was just impossible to hire specialists who have the skills. And plus, for product designers, I think you should be also diverse. So rather than framing it, you have to code, you need to have like some kind of specialization, which is like your additional skill. It could be a technical skill, cool, or it could be something else. So for example, maybe someone who's more advanced in research, for example, or like content creation. So it's like a super skill. So that might be more diverse and allow you to scale up the team.
Right. Ola, Lidia, maybe you have something to add here.
I would love to add because I had code, and I think I'm not able to understand it. Yeah, that's like my opinion. If you feel that's not for you, try just to find some no-code stuff that helps you, because I think in a way of like 5 years we are all will be using some apps to build your prototype or MVP like in 30 minutes. And for example, me personally, when I learned how to use Webflow or Tilda or something like that, it's helped me a lot with launching some simple like landing pages or simple improvements. Even in my previous job, our main landing page was made on Webflow because we needed to test a lot, and we didn't have a lot of developers to ask them every time, please change this button, please add this picture, please change the text. And Webflow really helped us, and there are a lot of apps. For example, you can use Glide if you want to run an app, and you can just upload a CSV file and gallery view or something like that. That's a pretty easy to test an idea, and I think that's the best way for someone like me who hates coding. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Funny thing that researchers sometimes also code, but not for the purposes you're talking about. We're talking about like SQL for the gathering data, which we need to, or maybe Python or R for analyzing data. And yeah, but it's also really great if you can do it, but still there are people who could do it better, like analytics or developers. Yeah, so it makes you yeah, I forgot words. It makes you better a researcher, but it's not necessary if there is something that you do really great and you can be a great adding to the team. Yeah.
Yeah, agree. So, and also I'd like to say that when you have some kind of specialization, maybe you can code, maybe you're good at research, maybe you're good at business part, but it's very important, as Arina said in her speech, to remember about the baseline, remember about the quality and your direct responsibilities. I guess now we can give the floor to our audience, and maybe now we have time for maybe like 2 questions. Are there any hands?
Again, hi, and thank you for your discussion. So I'm a designer who started from front-end development, and I really don't like it because you must overthink every time. So I have one question, like if designer except the front-end development must understand back-end and marketing also. I think when we spoke about data, if you say that you are using SQL or something like that, if necessary for a designer who wants to become a product designer, and why not then a product owner, must know backend and also marketing, because I think when you are building a landing pages, also you must understand how to build and how you code a user to your product. Thank you.
Actually, like, there's like one thing kind of going back to should designers code. In engineering, there's actually a huge level of technical complexity that I don't think designers should be exposed to. So for example, constantly trying to improve things or solving things, if you start coding, you just get carried away and you're trying obsessively to create more elegant solution. Like, that's where it's becoming dangerous, and that's actually, I think, when it backfires. When instead of actually building the feature, designer is just spending hours coding. Like, so you have to kind of try to stop yourself. Now, just going back to other part, so like if I'm understanding your question, you're asking, like, so product managers, for example, right? They should they do the same? Should they code, or should they know marketing? So first of all, same as designers, product managers also come from different backgrounds. I know some product managers who were designers and they became product managers. Some product managers, like many actually in Yerevan, I see many product managers coming from engineering background. So they've been engineers before, switched to product management. So I think like it's useful. They should do the job. Depends on the situation. Depends on the scale. Usually product managers or product owners have a lot of stuff on their plate. They have to deliver a lot of stuff, but they could potentially. I don't think it's a no-no. It's possible. Yeah.
Sasha, do you code now?
I unfortunately, hold on, I'm trying to remember. No, just because like the rest of the guys, they're so good. Yeah. Like there's just basically no need for me to do that, and that's how we just organize our current process. I would start the projects on the earlier stage, but again, everyone is involved. Like from day one, everyone is in. It's just like I'm doing the early work, and then as it's becoming more shaped, like the rest of the team would kind of carry on. And I'm just not. I would like to. But like, I know it takes me longer, and it's a startup, and we have to move like super fast. we ship so fast, so it wouldn't be productive. Although personally, my dream is like when day comes, hopefully, where I'll be able, I dream about switching career, but I'll only be able to do it. I would love to earn like iOS, like, you know, native programming. That's what I want to do, like just like wherever Swift. But I'm not able to do that because there's just like, I enjoy what I do as a designer, but like when I retire, I will try to start the new career as an engineer because I'll have a lot of time to learn. And unfortunately, it's just like not feasible right now. But yeah, yeah. Retirement plan, yeah.
Okay, of course, we will be able to talk later during the informal part. And now I'd like to jump to our next question. It's about innovation. Like there's always a lot of emerging new design tools, and not only design tools in different areas. Maybe research, some tools like Maze, Dovetail, or something similar, or a lot of different Figma plugins, for example, for bridging the gap between design and development. Some tools which can help with documentation, automation of the process, and beyond. And I want to ask you, what do you think is a better strategy for the design team to become early adopters and when such tools hit the market, or just wait until these tools have proven themselves? And what's your just personal attitude? Do you prefer to personally to experiment with new tools, or just wait until it becomes more reasonable so everyone have tried it, yeah, like this?
I really like to experiment because sometimes I got boring, and I tried a lot of different tools for research. For example, like there is a lot of psychophysical methods, like, you know, we have eye tracker in our lab, but also there are like remote eye tracking tools and emotion recognition tools, our service tools. For example, last week we started to test new panel for recruiting users. Yeah, and why not if something new and maybe good is going to the market? And you know, interesting thing after that, because then I go to the conference and say, well, I tried this doesn't work. And it's also one thing you can talk about with the people from the audience, because they may teach you something new. Yeah, so you can share your experience and teach something from others.
First of all, I have a funny situation, but first of all, I want to say that from my perspective, it's necessary for everyone who wants to start a startup, and for everyone who are working in a company with a lot of new stuff, like you create a lot of new features, not only improving existing. And my prescribed like morning every day, I go to the product hunt and look at some launches, and that's how I can keep on track on my competitors, on some interesting products. And another thing that I would love to suggest you to do, to find, like, for example, I really love some product called Peach. It's a product for presentation. And I just found the founder of this product in Twitter and follow him. And he posted a lot of interesting tweets about other products. And he also invests in another product and just build this network of interesting people. And they accidentally can help you with some tool or something. And I have a funny story. I was using kind of our competitor is called Stella, and it's just for recording video. It's just fancy design, a lot of small interesting features, and one feature was broke, and I couldn't record video, and I opened an intercom or wherever window for help, and they asked me to leave my email to get back to me, and when they get back to me, I left my Beseda email, like Lidia Beseda chat, and when they get back to me, it was a founder, because they also have a team of 2 people, and he's like, "Oh, you are Lidia from Beseda, I know your product," and we just started chatting about our products in this help desk system, and it was really nice to hear and fun, and we shared some supportive words about our startups. It was really nice, and it was one thing that, yeah, I want to mention. If you started to try new products, that's a really cool way to, and if they are on the beta or closed stage, you can go through the personal onboarding or something, and you can ask any question about the product, why they are doing it, and that's really nice way to collect some ideas to your onboarding process in your company, and understand why they are like not adding this feature and start with this feature. So I think it's a really nice process. It's a part of my daily life right now, and yeah, I think it might be really helpful for anyone.
I guess it's very important that you mentioned the community, communities which are built around new products, and you can have a chance to talk to really amazing people who are founders, who are doing like really amazing products, and to like there are a lot of chances for some kind of networking, and it's a cool part of trying new tools.
And just kind of to add, so there are a few things for designers. Although it's very risky, like, you know, it depends on the scale of your company. But like if you're a younger team, if you're like scaling up, it's an opportunity. Like first of all, it's an opportunity to learn. Design tools are probably built by very good designers. So like if you think about it, like usually the market is kind of competitive. So if a new tool comes up, it has to be better than others, because like, you know, remember when everyone was designing just in Photoshop, and then the transition to Sketch, but then after Sketch, like, you know, Figma, there was also Framer. So for example, our team was one of the first teams to pioneer Framer, and like, you know, it was a risk, but actually the community part was great. So like, you know, our designers were just following the newer ideas in interface design, for example. But then also you get easily involved in community, so that's great as well. So like, you know, and we were like, we were even using products in alpha. So there was a product called Abstract. It was kind of like Git for sketch files. So we were like alpha testing that. And the same thing was like, you know, with Framer as well. Actually, like thanks to using Framer, our team got a lot of attention. So it was almost like a hiring strategy, because like, you know, Farfetch wasn't known then, and then people would come from Framer community, oh yeah, you were using Framer, that's cool. So there was some, we've built like presence in design community just by using those tools. And yeah, so experiment, but be very careful. So for example, the story of Framer was actually, well, I would say technically failure in the end. So although we transitioned early, we managed to get away with this, but the actual state of the current Framer, it's like not super usable. So, and if you're like transitioning like all your design files to a new tool, just be careful about it. I think it's very cool to pick a safe tool as your core tool, but then don't block your team from using additional tools. So if someone likes prototyping in, let's say, unorthodox tool that just came up, like don't block them, allow them. Like, you know, like blocking people is usually not, it's a negative thing, but just like come to an agreement like, hey, our core product is this. You're welcome to explore, use it for prototypes and other stuff. Just be smart about it, because with Framer, we were lucky, we transitioned the whole mobile design team to Framer, and then they started having performance issues. So it was horrible, because when you got your whole project files like crashing all the time, and it was a disaster. We were lucky, because Framer for us was also just a transition while we were building our own design tool, just more design systems related tool. So it was okay, but just, it's a cool thing, but be very, very careful. Just don't put your company at risk as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very important part to be careful. And how it usually happens from your point of view? Is it is the bottoms-up approach, or and it comes naturally, or you as, for example, as a design manager, as a design director, or design lead, or something, you just come to your team and like suggest some tools for your team to try it out, or how it usually happens?
So they start trying for themselves without asking, like, they keep talking, hey, have you seen this new tool? I was like, go ahead, give it a try. And then we feel like, okay, we actually want to buy a license when the time, because that's when it needs to, like, you need to formalize it. Because like if it's a big company, there's probably enterprise license involved and so on. So you want to make sure your team is happy, and they're, because there will be a transition to the tool. So it means there will be extra effort for the team to move all the files. Obviously, product owners and main teams won't allow you to spend weeks of your designer's time just like moving everything from Sketch to Figma or to Framer. So your team has to be motivated. They have to pioneer for it. They have to be like behind your back, and then like you need, I guess, both prepare the team, so bottoms up. They want it, they're ready to support you, they're ready to do like extra work to make this happen. But then you also kind of go up and try to justify why we want to do this, why we need this. So like you need to work on both ends. But like I would say never against what your team wants. Because if it's hard for them, or if they don't support it, it's your product won't be adapted if it's a broader org.
Okay, so by the way, I have a small question, Lida. What about Bisera? Bisera is usually adopted, how it happens. So basically you're talking to someone who is senior on the team, or it's usually kind of bottoms up approach?
Yeah, right now, most of our users came from that people that I want to try something new, and then they like wrote us something. I would like to use it with my team, and uh, for us right now, it's the cheapest and easiest way to find the first customers, because, for example, I know there is a few like big companies with a strong design team, and I know the person who really loves trying something new, and I can directly text them a message, hey, would you like to try us? We solve these problems. Do you face it in your company? So right now, yeah, it's like a bottom-up strategy, because when some people in a company start using something, they bring it to more perspective, for more teams, not only for design team, and then they buy a subscription to your product for the whole company. Yeah, right now it's for us it's a working strategy.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, we have one question.
Because all of you sitting and speaking are already good designers and experts. I have a question about tools. I used to use Figma, and how you think about that tool, how effectively it worked, and what other tool must junior designer learn? Because at first time I hear about the frame. Yes, Framer, you say? Framer, it's also a tool for designers.
Yes, it was a code-based design tool. It still exists, but I think they're now pivoting into a website builder like Webflow.
Okay, then what feedback you have for Figma, for example? Is it good or not? So, and what we can use for good design?
I think Figma is probably the most popular design tool right now. It's pretty good. The team is great, and the stuff they're doing is like amazing. They were first to really bring in Google Docs workflow to like a design, and like it's incredible how you can collaboratively design now. So they were pioneering that, and that's actually how they managed to overrun Framer. I love Figma. I think it's a great tool. But I also like, like other tools are good. Like Sketch is great. Adobe XD, it all depends. Like on your workflow, on your setup, on your team. I think there's like a lot of respect go to Sketch for what they did for like modern design tools, because they were the pioneers. They weren't just like, I think that the founder wasn't so competitive. He didn't want to constantly, he actually, it's interesting, he was saying that his aim was to create just like a illustration tool rather than interface design tool, like specifically interface design tool. But yeah, I think Figma is very good. I love that you can just use it on a browser, like, inclusivity. You can, like, that's why, like, in Tumo, we were just like, you open up a browser and that's it. You can be on a Windows machine. You can, it doesn't matter. You open up a browser and you can design. It's incredible. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add that I absolutely love Figma, and I guess Figma now is kind of industry trendsetter, and has a beautiful design, has an amazing team. So yeah, and just personally, I'd like to say I love Figma. Yeah. Maybe one more question right now.
Sorry. Hello, and thank you so much for this meetup. It's really very useful for all of us. I'm just studying, and I hope I will be a junior UI UX designer. And I would like to ask two questions. First, really, we are interested, how did you make the design of Farfetch? And it's really intuitive, super user-friendly. What part did you take building this product? Did you make it fully? Sorry that I don't know about this. And the second question is really about from our course. We are here students. We came all together. Like, what advices will you give us in this first road? You know that we are taking these first steps. We will finish in 2 weeks our courses, and we're excited to find jobs, to become a junior designer. So it's something new in our life, in our career. So any advices, anything that can help us to become, as soon as it's possible, the junior designer. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. So with Farfetch, I was super lucky to join that company when it was just scaling up. When I came, so it was basically just scale up. So I joined when the team was growing. When I came, design team was maybe 6 people. And I think, I don't remember, for sure in half a year, it was about 40 or 60. So I came at the moment when it was a roller coaster and it was growing. So Farfetch already existed, so the core product, the website, they had the website. And I've designed the mobile app. So there was an initial version of mobile app when I came on board, but it was pretty much hacked. It was very messy. It was pretty much like MVP style engineering project. Just let's get an iOS app. So when I came on board, I committed to basically building the app, and I hired the mobile design team. So a lot of the screens were designed by me and myself. And then as the team grew, I had to kind of I think I was an IC, which is specialist rather than manager for quite a long. And yeah, the mobile app, that's basically was designed by me. I guess we can talk later. I'll give you more details if you're interested, because it's a huge process. I don't know what to communicate. I was also working on localization part. So rolling it out to new markets, building typography, that was really challenging and interesting actually. How do you make sure that this all works in Chinese and Russian as well? So yeah, there was a lot of stuff, and branding as well. that was an interesting project, very unorthodox, when we kind of reshaped and relaunched the brand. And that was like my last project at Farfetch, the rebrand of Farfetch. It was a huge team, by the way. Like, it's not just you can't pick. There were like so many people involved, like on the rebranding project. So yeah, it wasn't just me, for sure. Now, suggestion to beginners. So like, okay, constantly learn, go through the same courses again and again. It's like, you know, if you've done the course, do it again, do it again. Like, yeah, I don't personally, like, you know, because I grew up here and like in 90s, and the schools were really bad in Armenia. So like, I didn't properly finish school. So that's why, unfortunately, I don't read much. And like reading books is actually like such a powerful source of information, but that's how it happens. Like I was just like, you know, didn't finish school properly. So unfortunately, I'm not able to suggest to you any good books because I don't read much. But obviously, there are other sources, like, you know, watch tutorials. If you find the course, do it. Like, you know, don't think, oh, is it a good course or a bad course? If you have an opportunity to do a course, do it. Like, you know, do 3 different courses. If there are, let's say, if you find 3 courses for UX beginners, just do all 3 of them. And like, you know, it won't be wasted. For beginners, my like strategical advice would be try to understand like what type of designer you are. So that's more. Are you more technical or you hate code? So that's really important, right? You need to be honest and be like, I don't like code. This is boring. Like I want to do design, and get away with that. Like, you know, recognizing your strengths probably will help you, and like think about what motivates you. So for example, again, before Farfetch, I didn't actually have experience of designing native mobile applications. So this was my real first native app that I designed. Before that, I was just like web designing, doing websites and so on. But when like I have this story, when I saw iPhone, I was like, damn, I want to design these. They just look amazing. That's what I want to become, a mobile designer. And then I couldn't get a job as a mobile designer because like I didn't have any experience. And Farfetch was the first place where I was like, I was just obsessed with designing native apps. And like, you know, I got into the place and I was kind of allowed to do it, and it worked well for me. So I hope it helps. But we can talk more later.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And
I
sure, go
wanted
ahead.
to add just for the beginner designers, besides learning new stuff about design, you just also need to learn how to put the boundaries, because a lot of time I saw that product managers can see these designers like we have the working hands, and you can find out yourself in a situation when you overload with like small uninteresting tasks and you don't want to do it, and because you are a junior designer don't put you in a position when you should do everything, and you still should have access to every information in your company about every product decision. Sometimes also product managers think that they shouldn't describe and discuss with their designers why they are making something, and designers became unmotivated because of them, because they don't know why they are doing something. And yeah, and if you also need any help, because of you are the junior designer, you need more help than any other, and your product manager should help you with everything. If you have like lead designer, the same situation, like boundaries also important for designer, because you can grow faster if you will do more specific tasks that you are interested in, and you understand why you are doing it, and you understand why your company doing this. I can't remember some specific books, but maybe if I found, I posted in this discussion in Beseda. But yeah, for me, it was a really big part, this emotional part and the part with the boundaries. And that's helped me a lot to build my career because, for example, the salary part, again, junior designers can agree with a salary that just don't fit the market at all, and that's don't right, and I'm against it. And they sometimes they just shy and scared to discuss that part. And I suggest everyone just to, I don't know, try to understand whether you satisfy with your salary. It doesn't matter, or you're junior designer or like middle designer or senior. And if it's not, try to solve this problem and not hide it into yourself, because I'm not so experienced to talk with it. That's routine parts also really matters in the designer's work, and we should not forget about that.
For your answer. So actually, the last question helped us to naturally make a transition to our next question. So it's about gaining experience. I think we all witnessed the transformation of the product designer's role over the recent years, and what may have been a good advice for designers a couple of years ago now could no longer be relevant. So just I want to invite you to share your recommendations or your advice or your some parts of your personal experience. So I guess Alexander and Lidia already started to do it. And what's the best way to learn new things and to gain experience quickly? Are there any specific things which would you recommend? Ola.
Yeah, it's interesting question because I don't remember actually how I got my experience, because I think I just was curious, and I thought what else could I try? It just was interesting, yeah. And also sometimes I'm thinking I'm working for like 6.5 years in Yandex now. It's quite a lot, but still it feels like I can deal with different tasks. How has it happened? And it felt like I was really lucky to be at the same time in the B2C and the B2B and in internal products involved in it. So I think it's very, they're very different from each other, and it also helps to get a better understanding. So if you can switch in the company or between the companies to see how does different teams work, how do different audience react and behave, and yeah, you should see as much as you can, and it would be really helpful. This is really good if you can do it in the same company, but maybe if you're not, it's a good idea to switch to see the other realities. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great piece of advice. And now I guess I'd like to share my personal experience. So first of all, I'd like to mention it's important to, as for me, it's a good idea to find some kind of mentor. A person who can help you to grow rapidly, and and you can ask any questions. You can do something together. You can have some sessions with some kind of reflection, and it was very useful for me in the beginning of my career. The second one is about place you work at. So as Ola said, if you're not satisfied, it could be a good idea to find like another place where you can explore new possibilities, and to find yourself in a situation where you are surrounded by more experienced designers, like more mature processes, and beyond. And like what else? don't be afraid to ask questions. So there are a lot of people around you who are pretty experienced in different fields, and it's very, very important to just not to be shy and to reach out to the person you need to get some information or to learn something new, and it helped me a lot as well.
I actually just want to add to what you said, like regarding like finding a mentor, right? I just know that like in Armenia, like the tech community is quite young, it's growing, it's great. There's like a lot of engineers, but like design is like a new thing. So my suggestion, because you might join a company and you might be an only designer there, or maybe their first hire. So how are you going to learn? But like I think the mentor idea will still work. Try to find mentor maybe from engineering. So if you have many questions in design, because it's kind of younger, engineering was already there, and like all this product design thing, it's pretty new. A lot of stuff we take from engineering, we learn. Not everything, right? But like find a mentor who's maybe engineering manager, who's super experienced in managing people, and just ask him personally to guide you. He might not have the expertise, like specialist knowledge that you seek, but it's a really good advice. And like, you know, I also like tried to connect and partner up with like engineering managers, and they helped me, right? Because they would just consider myself as an engineer. It doesn't matter what I do, and like, you know, it helps. So try to find mentors within your organizations. They might be from business, there might be from engineering, but like, yeah, that's a hack around that.
Yeah, and I also want to add, when I started my career as a UX researcher, nobody even knew what is it UX research. And when I opened the website where you can find job opportunities, you type UX research and nothing. Yeah, so, and for me, the best way to start it was an agency. And this is the place where a lot of professional researchers already was, and you can see different types of the products, different types of people who work with products. It's also very important. So I don't know how Armenian market it is right now, but maybe it's also maybe a good idea to start with the agency to learn from others. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good addition.
Just one thing, although this is super obvious, but like you now have access to everything that's happening in the world. Just be aware of the big conferences, like wherever there's cool stuff on Figma, just follow them and watch them. Like, you know, it's not so much detached. It's the same world. Just like be up to date with that stuff and just try to focus, understand what's happening there. So just direct source of information. Don't skip that.
So yeah, so about the conferences. So recently, I guess maybe someone, if you had a chance to watch Config, it's conference made by Figma. Yeah, right. Okay, that's cool. They already have recordings uploaded on YouTube, so just don't miss this chance to learn something new and watch these recordings. Yeah, so also great idea.
I'll throw one more thing. Watch Russian conferences as well. So I think like there was pretty good design community in Russia, very strong. They had some amazing products. And actually, they've been running meetups and conferences for a while. I think it's a great source of information as well. So just diversify yourself, watch the Russian stuff. There were a few good ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Lidia, maybe you'd like to add something here?
Yeah, quick adding maybe for me, from my experience, really helped participate in something with a practical usage. Like I'm not speaking about a corporate job, but for example, I participated in Yandex mobilization like courses, and they gave me the feeling of the team because I have a manager, I have a engineer who were also on the courses about like managers and management and engineering, and we had to create our own product, and it was really nice experience which I couldn't get from my company, for example, because my company I was on the like junior level without any interesting tasks, and I could not propose some ideas. And yeah, and other stuff, I don't know if in Armenia, something like that. I participated in Russia Design Cup. It's a competition for designers, and like some of the most known Russian designers, they created tasks for you for reach like level of this competition, and they only like certain number of designers get to the finish, and this also you can use it for your portfolio. Any of this case you can use it, and this is a really, for me, was a really nice was really helpful to build my first portfolio, to collect my first experience, and maybe there is something you can find also with a practical usage. For example, like build your some idea or like mock-up. Maybe it's some hackathon where you can go and find some friends, or maybe you can go with your friends. This is was useful for me. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Guys, currently I guess it's I guess a lot of time passed, and currently we have a space for, I guess, one question, and then we can continue during our informal networking session. We have a hand right there.
Hello. My question is too general. During transformation of product designers' role, we can say that product designers aren't just builders, because we can be a part of business strategy and we can make decisions. Why not? I would like to listen several key moments from your experience, but more from business perspective, not from users.
Yeah, I'm trying to digest it. So some cases when I participated as a product designer, but in a business way or business task, something like that, right? Okay, so when I worked in Skyeng, I was a product designer, and I already knew that I wanted to understand how the product works, and I knew that that Skyeng opened a new like branch with a for kids challenges, and they needed to build it from scratch, and I just proposed my skills, but when I just wanted to be not only as a designer of this like epic or big task, but also as a like not in a manager, but share my vision how I see this new branch and how we should propose our like product to our segment, and it worked. They just told me, okay, we still don't have any managers who wanted to do it, just do it. Yeah, but it's hard for me to say, because I think every time when I was doing something, I tried to be involved in a business strategy, because sometimes for example, you started to communicate with your manager and ask questions like, why do we use this product metric? How it's connected to the business metric, or how it's connected to money, or why are we even use this segment of users? They also start thinking about it, and they can just realize that we don't use this metric. And but you have to understand on what metrics affects your work, and ask your manager what business metrics connected to this. And if you have like visualization in your company with all of that, it really helps. Yeah, and from my experience, it just always was the question, what's the metrics and why we are doing it, and how it helps us as a company in in a way of like 3-6 months, something like that?
As a product designer, like my real main experience of being involved in business is actually like right now, as I kind of joined a startup. That's where you have to be involved in the business. Early stage startups, there's just no way around it. It's a shared responsibility. It's not like one person's job. And there's no product. You're creating the product. You have to create a strategy, and like, you know, that's how the business, like you specifically consumer, right? In consumer, you have to create a lot of added value. So we keep on experimenting very fast and shaping the product and coming up with how business actually works. So it's a cool experience. I'm really enjoying it. And like, you know, defining the metrics, everything that was mentioned. What's important for us, like, you know, what are we going for? We can't get everything. We can only get one important metric up. So, and then we focus on it. Not really like business strategy, but for example, in Meta, the regular process would be cross-functional team being responsible for defining their team's roadmap, product roadmap, right? So there would be like a high-level goal that they have to achieve, but the team was responsible, not the product manager. Product manager, yes, he would lead it, but it's shared responsibility. So engineering, design, research together would work on the strategy, and it would be also designer's job to provide feedback and like, you know, contribute to creation of the roadmap or critique, or to critique it. Why are we doing this? Let's not do this, or we shouldn't focus on this. So it was pretty cool. It was my first experience when like designers were like pushed into collaboration around the product strategy.
You know, I saw a lot of product designers and product researchers, UX researchers, right? And from my point of view, the best designers, the best researchers are the ones who think like product managers, because we're all doing the product. This is the main goal. And maybe they're not coding. It's of course cool, but still there are developers. But the designer who thinks like product manager is a good designer. Of course, there are other skills like prototyping, but the main goal is the product. So yeah, it's very important to lead this process, to think about it, and not to be shy to ask about why we're doing this, and why did you come up with such solution, why we can't do another thing, and yeah, do it.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great addition as well. And I guess on this note, I'd like to say thank you to Alexander, to Ola, and to Lidia for participating in this discussion. And I hope every one of us enjoyed this conversation and will find something useful to reflect on. Yeah, again, thank you. And thank you all for listening.